Facebook. We are talking into the podcast machine, and we are very tired. It is 7:15 in the morning on Saturday.
How late were we up, Zach?
Till 2 a.m.
It's true.
Because there's a lot of stuff happening in the Toronto area. I don't know. There's a film festival, and that's what we're going to talk about. I don't know. I got no energy for 7:15. Because I have to go see A Star Is Born, which will be tomorrow. In tomorrow's TIFF diary.
That's right.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and jump into the stuff that we saw yesterday. We all kind of kicked off our day around, noon? Mm-hmm. Anybody want to lead off, or any preferences, or I guess I can start. That's.
You seem like you have so much energy, Zach.
Yeah.
I just want you to be able to bring that energy.
I'll work through it. So the first movie I saw yesterday is The Front Runner. It's the second movie I think Jason Reitman has made this year.
Yeah.
And
after Tully.
Yeah, after Tully. And this one stars Hugh Jackman as Gary Hart, who, brace for it, in 1988 or 87 was running for president and got into had an affair. And because he had an affair, he couldn't be president.
Because we don't let people who
it's
do bad things be president.
It's inexplicable,
Yeah.
And yeah, it stars J.K. Simmons doing J.K. Simmons stuff. He has a lot of,
Oh, is he Gary Hart?
Hugh Jackman's Gary Hart.
Oh,
yeah.
Never mind. Sorry.
No, J.K. Simmons is his chief of staff, campaign advisor person, manager, who says lines like, "What's the name, Billy? I'm Bill, an 8-year-old's Billy," stuff like that, along those lines. Vera Farmiga plays Gary Hart's wife.
Vera Farmiga, she's good.
Yeah, she's good. Yeah, she's good. She does a little bit more than what she's necessarily given. She does a good job. But yeah, I don't know. I think I have little mileage for these movies. This kind of feels like a 2018 politics response movie in the same realm as kind of like The Post and stuff like that, where it's affirming the importance of the third estate, as well as the just kind of the craziness of the political landscape that we live in. Mm-hmm. But it's not. It's just kind of affirming it. It's not really giving us anything else other than that. And I feel like we're at a point in time where just acknowledging it isn't doing anything. We should at least have either be trying to actively fix the situation, or I don't know. There should be something more. There should be an active verb.
Right.
This is a very passive verb movie.
This is a movie that just liberals are going to go see to validate what they already think.
Yeah, they're going to be like, I know, isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
And you're just going to be like, yeah, it is, but we're what the fuck do you want to do now? Yeah, this liberals over the age of 55 are going to love this because and they'll be like, I remember when that happened and it was blah, and they'll tell you a story that you don't care about. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like another kind of chain in that link that I'm just like, I don't know what it's like. These filmmakers don't really know what they can do on a more active level, so they're just like, well, I'm gonna speak through my art, and your art is kind of tame. There's only so much you can do in a studio. There's only so much you can do in a studio movie that's covering this.
I was asking Andrew yesterday, when we were gonna get our really good Trump movies, because the 70s and 68 had Nixon movies, really good political, paranoid, very clearly about our crook president movies. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, are we gonna get those?
My response yesterday was that Hollywood was in such a different place in the 70s, where artists were kind of being given a little bit more freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can maybe see that on the fringes, because we have streaming services and stuff just giving out money like crazy to filmmakers.
That's true.
So I think you can maybe see it on that.
I mean, Ava DuVernay's 13.
Yeah, and she's also working on the Central Park 5 miniseries type thing. So it's I think maybe it's on that, but on a studio level, no, it's not. And like I said, it's just this affirmation that I'm like, yeah, everybody recognizes we're in a crazy point, and just affirming it is not gonna oh, I feel better now.
Right.
So yeah, The Front Runner, I don't know, it just doesn't do anything that really changes your perspective, or you go, oh, that's weird in the 80s, you know. I will say, though, that it actually gives a strong perspective to Donna Rice, who is the woman he has the affair with. Like, they spend time to, like, explore her psyche and not just make her, like, a face in the crowd type situation, just kind of blonde hair. They actually at least investigate her as a person and kind of her personal fallout throughout the whole thing. So I thought that I'll give it credit for that, but other than that, it was pretty forgettable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you kind of expected that going in.
I did. I did this because he had the affair in Savannah, according to where he filmed, and he went and got on a boat on Tybee Island that they said was Miami. So I was like, nope, that's Tybee Island. That's not Miami. I've been to both places. So.
Well, I'll go next, I guess. Yesterday morning I saw Vox Lux by Brady Corbett, and that stars Natalie Portman. Brady Corbett recently made his first movie, The Childhood of a Leader, which is...
It's over there. I would show it, but then we crumble.
Yeah, we have a DVD over there. Anyways, Childhood of a Leader is a fictional story about a fictional Hitler figure, and
as
his
you do.
childhood, which is understandably awful, as in he is being awful to everyone in his life 100% of the time. And it's just kind of him throwing temper tantrums and then eventually being like a Hitler figure at the end. And I don't necessarily know what that movie is trying to say other than Hitler was bad. He must have been a bad kid too. Vox Lux is kind of...
Yes.
Vox Lux is trying to do a similar thing, but with a character that you might expect to have a little bit more sympathy for. Natalie Portman plays a pop star who got famous very, very young. And she gets famous after becoming a local celebrity for surviving a school shooting. So it's a weird setup at the beginning of this movie, because the first scene is a very scary school shooting scene that reminded me a lot of some of the things that I wrote about my video essay. That I think it's the first or the second rule that I came up with, like gunshots are only scares if they're surprises. That is something that Corbett's movie uses very well in that first scene. And then Natalie Portman's character, played by a different actor because she's like the younger version of her in 8th grade, gets famous for singing a song that she wrote at the candlelight vigil after the tragedy, and then she kind of immediately gets taken under the wing of a young enterprising music producer played by Jude Law. And the first half of the movie is the younger version of the character and Jude Law kind of like exploring the music industry together, making kind of exploitative choices. And you get the sense very early on that this is a character who is it's hard to talk about this movie because I feel like it's take on this type of person, this school shooting survivor, is so like inherently fucked up. It seems to imply from the jump that she is going to find a way to spin this in her own like mercenary favor. Like she is going to use the spotlight that is now on her to become some sort of like really popular, important public figure. And so you might expect this to go in kind of like a Perfect Blue route of like young vulnerable girl gets kind of abused by the system and reconstructed in a new image to please the gaze of her audience. But no, I mean, this character is just, she is sort of like the awful Hitler kid of like, she's just kind of being terrible to all the people around her, and they allow her to because they can make a lot of money off of her. And then halfway through the movie, we jump forward in time to this character being played by Natalie Portman. So she's only in the second half of the film, and she kind of amplifies this entitled, aggressive, very unpleasant character. And I don't know how much I should say about the second half of the movie because it's a lot of kind of mundane incident. Most of the movie takes place in the backstage and behind the scenes spaces of pop stardom. It takes place in hotel rooms and on tour buses and stuff like that. Not so much in the spotlight itself. You just have a lot of petty drama and people just being aggravated with one another for their many years baggage because of all this the trauma that is kind of held up in this character's story. I don't know. It's such a mean-spirited movie that really makes you hate this character and doesn't seem to have much to say about her either. It tries to frame her fall from grace as America's fall from grace because it starts in the year 2000 when school shootings really start to pick up with Columbine, and then you see her reacting to 9/11 happening about 45 minutes through the film, and then when we jump forward to 2017, there's all this like very ominous, dreadful narration by Willem Dafoe of all people, who has that ominous, dreadful voice, and he doesn't say the word Trump, but he kind of implies that we live in this new age of like gilded decadence, like America at its most like selfish and gaudy and all that. So it wants to frame her story as America's story, and because it wants us to hate America, I guess, it also very much wants us to hate her. And I found it to be kind of a joyless, unpleasant, and not particularly thoughtful movie, considering all of the very complicated issues that it's juggling all at the same time. It's also dedicated to the memory of Jonathan Demme, which felt just kind of disgraceful to me. Jonathan Demme, known for his light touch and his humanism and how he can kind of imbue any character story with a sense of empathy. This movie doesn't have any empathy for, a school shooting survivor. Like, I was thinking while watching this that Michael Moore brought David Hogg to Toronto 2 nights ago for the premiere of Fahrenheit 11/9, and I didn't stick around for Brady Corbett's Q&A because I was done with the movie. But I thought about sticking around and asking, like, well, this movie seems to imply that even a guy like David Hogg is really just like a social climber who is using his newfound attention in order to game the system to his own selfish advantage. Mm-hmm. And that just seems like a really irresponsibly, overly assuming thing to say about someone like that. And nor does it give you any emotional window into the world of an underage girl kind of sexualized and exploited by the music industry. Like, there are so many ways that you could add an emotional dimension to this, but Brady Corbett just hates this character so much. We are just locked on the outside judging her, and I imagine this is going to be like an indie hit later this year. But honestly, like, go watch Perfect Blue again. It just got an American re-release. Go watch Black Swan again, which is also like Natalie Portman riffing on Perfect Blue.
Right.
Better. I found it very unpleasant. Brady Corbett clearly wants to be working in the mode of Lars von Trier, Michael Haneke, Yorgos Lanthimos, and I think that pretty much all of those guys do it better than he does. So, Vox Lux, not a fan.
It's very serious.
Yeah.
All right, Lydia.
I liked my first movie better than y'all did. I went to see Mouthpieces by Tito. She's a Canadian filmmaker. Before I came up for TIFF, I watched her 90s film that she's known for. I've heard The Mermaid Singing. It's about kind of a woman living in Toronto, and she wants to be a photographer, and she's a little bit weird.
As we all are.
That seems, yeah. I mean, that seems to. I've only So, like I said, seen the other one, but that seems to be like the mode Rosman works in. Mouthpiece is it's an adaptation of a 2-woman play, and it stars the screenwriters and actors who wrote it and performed it on stage. I have their names. I looked it up. I did my homework. Amy Nussbakken and Nora Sedeva, and they play a character named Cassandra. Amy Nussbakken plays tall Cassandra, and Nora Sedeva plays short Cassandra. The play is about the main character finds out her mother has died and suddenly has to deal with like getting flowers for the funeral and like getting fucking cheese cubes and for the reception. And she wants to write the eulogy, but apparently she and her mom got into like some sort of thing last year, and everyone in her family's like, maybe don't get up there and be whatever you're gonna do. Like they think it's gonna be horrible. They think it's gonna be horrible. And maybe I'm dumb. It took me a second to catch on that tall Cassandra and young Cassandra were the same character, because at first I'm just like, oh, they're roommates or like girlfriends or. But they like will do things in sync. Like it's a weird touch. Like putting on makeup, they'll both make the same motion and they'll walk in step together. They're together the whole movie, and they kind of trade off. Like on the one hand, one will be like, oh, I want to say these really nice things about my mom. Like she was so great, she was kind, she was loving. And then the other one's like, you're making her sound like a saint. She fucking wasn't. Like, yeah. Because writing a eulogy is very complicated. People are complicated. Is the thesis. No. But I don't know, I found it, even with all the like weird touches of like both of them in the bathtub or like them trading off lines while they're talking to another character, and nobody else seems to notice it. Like they treat both Cassandras as the one. So that took a second to get used to, but there were like really good moments. I don't know, that felt like mother-daughter interactions. The one that really stood out to me was Cassandra's a writer, and she like calls her mom all excited about her first published piece in the magazine or whatever, and her mom's like, the conversation's going good. She's like, oh yeah, I bought 5 copies, I helped you edit it, that was my idea, blah 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 blah, and then she just goes, I don't think brown's your color for the like author profile picture, and like as soon as those words leave her mouth, like the mom goes like and then like Cassandra shuts down, like now we're not talking anymore, even though you said that nice thing about buying all the copies. And it seems like Cassandra doesn't really respect her mom for like, her mom was also a writer and an editor, but kind of in flashback find out that she fell out of the industry to like help raise her kids. And it's pretty clear her mom's got some sort of like very feminist liberal values. You get a shot of her desk with like Maya Angelou books and I can't remember, Joan Didion, like records and stuff. And so clearly she has tried to raise her daughter to be like very strong and independent. But then, and her daughter she lives alone, she's a writer, but it's like 2 different expressions of feminist values. The mom's like pretty upset that her marriage quote unquote failed. And Cassandra has to like wrestle, like I'm 30 and I'm single, and my mom's like upset about being divorced, and I mean it's very complicated things to wrestle with. Yeah.
We were talking yesterday. I was asking if the mother and the daughter, both of their kind of unique experiences with feminism, you think they're supposed to reflect like second wave feminism, third wave feminism, considering the age gap there.
And I was trying to think, maybe that's what Cassandra's got, because she's 30 in 2018, so she definitely would have grown up with like 90s third wave feminism. Yeah. Girl power. And she does, I also talked with Andrew, like Cassandra very much like almost has a cool girl monologue herself, which I want to come back to the monologues, but she's kind of like, I never saw my mother eat french fries, so she's afraid of getting fat or like whatever, and like when I go out with a guy or with a group, it's like I always order fried food. It's like, no, I'm cool, I get it. And then the other Cassandra is like, yeah, but you hate, like, you don't even like that food. Like, also, you shouldn't be doing things to impress you. Like, very aware of the performative behavior that she's engaging with. and that her mother engaged with, and like, did I pick up bad things from my mom or like in reaction to?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was a lot sadder than I thought it'd be. I don't know why I didn't think it'd be sad.
You know, a movie about grieving over one's mother.
But it was also like, it has some funny touches, and you know, like I said, the surreal thing of watching them do everything in sync or like physically fight with each other. Sometimes, you know, making internal thought processes and contradictory voices in your head. Just like literally, it's just two people. Because it was based on a play, when they did the Q&A afterwards, it seemed to imply that because it was just the two-woman play, like there was a lot more staginess and monologuing. There are like moments when one of the Cassandras will like go off on a thing, like a topic or some incident will set it off, and then it's like, now we're gonna the French fry, cool fried whatever. That felt a little bit probably word for word from the stage play.
Yeah.
But I think because it's film, Patricia Rosman like added the mother character. Like now it's not just a two-woman play. It's like we actually can see the mother, and like she has her moments too, and you get the flashback structure. So the actresses, like it seemed like she really opened it up, and like now we're talking about grief and stuff too, and not just internal conflicts about feminism.
Right.
So I think it was a successful adaptation. I liked it. I don't know if it's gonna go wide. Like I don't know what the appeal.
Do you think it could play art house theaters? Like would it come to Downtown West maybe?
Maybe Downtown West. It's also like a very Toronto movie. Like I was like, oh, yeah, I recognize we were walking on that street.
Oh yeah.
Like just yesterday.
And they're kind of begging for word of mouth after the movie. Right?
And I have actually seen also around Toronto the stage writers plays. Like their next one is coming up. They're performing it, and I've like actually seen the posters just around. So they're like really local artists. So
seems like a more sensitively handled movie than the one that I saw.
Yeah.
At least.
I don't know if it goes like streaming. I think it's worth a check out. It's
yeah.
Like, especially just like small women behind and in front of the camera.
Well, speaking of mothers, my mom says good morning.
Oh.
Good morning, Mary.
Morning.
I guess we can move on real quickly to kind of match up our two schedules.
Yeah.
In between those movies and the next slot of movies that we saw, I caught Cold War, which is the latest by Paweł Pawlikowski, who did Ida a couple of years ago, which is it's a very good movie. I would recommend checking that one out. This one, Cold War, kind of shapes itself up as this. You just look at the synopsis here, and it's a Cold War era love story follows the passionate love affair between a mismatched couple.
No.
Well, let's talk about the kind of mismatching of this couple. So the movie begins pretty close to the end, or right after World War II. Poland is in disarray. They have no identity, and so it seems like one of the initiatives that they do in order to establish an identity is to create this song and dance, kind of art school where they're going to bring, they're going to collect. They're going around at the beginning collecting songs from different villages, the people who are living in those villages, the kind of peasant songs as they describe, in order to explore and really affirm the nationalism of Poland as that it has an identity after this war. And so the main character, Tomasz Kot plays, is the conductor and arranges the music for this school. And one of the teenage girls who tries out is this woman by Joanna Kulig, who we follow for the rest of the movie, who is this kind of has this very unique and enticing personality. Is just this very alluring, almost femme fatale-ish character, and of course they start this kind of love affair. You have the older man and the student type dynamic for a while. That goes away when he tries to propose them while they're in Berlin, escaping to France. But of course, she doesn't show up, and he goes on to France. And so the next part of the movie is them picking up every year or two or so in random cities like Paris and Yugoslav and a number of other areas where they just kind of pick up and carry on somewhat of a little affair before finally picking it up and staying with each other for a number of years. During that time, she gets a record deal, and he's kind of pushing her to really explore her music career, but she seems kind of reticent to do that and is wanting to return to Poland. But it's complicated because at that point, Poland is embracing a lot of the communism that, and you have one of the reasons why he left the school in the first place is because now they're becoming kind of a national mouthpiece for Stalin and Russia to kind of instill those values into saying that that's the identity of Poland at that period of time.
It seems like a way more historically, politically minded movie than Ida.
And well, at least, especially the beginning part of it is, it really has this kind of interesting, because you find Poland at this point where it's just kind of spiraling. You know, it's dealt with very, as is documented, very tragic and just horrible situations post World War II, and it's kind of one of those. There's no like fix afterwards. They're just kind of floundering, and so that's why they kind of latch on to that, and he just doesn't agree with it. And it kind of becomes. It was. I was thinking a lot about just the again the use of arts and entertainment to establish a sense of nationalism, and I don't know. You're supposed to be kind of hooked on this relationship that these two people have, but one, you start with this older man student whole little relationship, and it does progress to being something more than just that kind of predatory type thing. It becomes that they at least are like having some sort of relationship, but it also becomes a whole like he wants her to do this in music, and she doesn't really want to. And I think if this was like a movie predominantly in France, there would be like a different conclusion for it. But because they live in such a politically strived time and there's no real safety net that they can fall back on, it just really takes a tragic spiral because they end up back in Poland. He ends up really unable to arrange any or play any music because he's been jailed for a number of years for deserting before. I don't know. I really liked Ida. This one really didn't hit too much with me in terms of the narrative beats. It's beautiful to look at. Kind of another snow and black and white movie that I dug. But I don't know. I felt like the relationship wasn't as kind of the actual like romance of it wasn't as nuanced and interesting as it wanted to be. I felt the political stuff around it. I understood that. I think David Ehrlich described the movie as like being, you have this like broken relationship around this broken world and with broken people, and you do have that, but I just feel like you have to have some warmth in that romance to like kind of get you to keep moving you to these different points. And it's very tragic at the end, but I don't know. I wasn't really consumed in that relationship, and I found it to be fine, but pretty, relatively unremarkable, which was a bummer. Like I said, I really liked Ida, and I went and saw this instead of Transit by Bertzold, and that seemed to be the one that I should have went to.
Striking out. I
know, I struck out. But this one, it'll be out later this year. It's Amazon owns it.
Yeah.
But I guess let's move on to our fun portion of the day, and that was the Wavelengths 1 Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I got Lydia and Zach to go watch avant-garde cinema with me. It was fun. Was it fun?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Wavelengths.
I'll say before, it was a really cool the showing, the crowd and everything. Like it was like a kind of a perfect experience to be watching that.
That screening was what Darren was talking about on the preview episode of film Twitter come to life. You just see people that you recognize from their Twitter avatars and like, oh hey, there's that person.
Yeah, because it's not like you're seeing like A.O. Scott, Manola. Well, not that they aren't interested in it. It's just kind of this niche, kind of half critic, half academic hybrid type thing.
I would name names, but that feels awkward.
Yeah. I mean, we saw a bunch of friends of the podcast. We can shout out. I mean, we saw Darren. We saw Gearish. We saw Blake Williams.
Was there. But this is the first of many avant-garde short film programs shorts. This one was called Earth, Wind, and Fire because all the shorts have something to do with the natural elements, kind of using those as raw material for creating these sensory experiences. I'll just quickly go through the names so that people can look these up if they want to. Poly 1, which is by Kevin Jerome Everson. I've seen a bunch of stuff by him because there was a big exhibition at Big Ears a couple years back of his stuff. And then we saw Blue by Omarosa, the only artist not in attendance. Single tier.
They were like, everybody's here except for the one you wanted to see.
Feigning Spells by Sky Opinka. Prologue to the Tarot, Glenna by Brittany Gravely and Ken Linehan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Hoarders Without Borders by Jody Mack. Great Jody Mack. Ante Mis Ojos by Lina Rodriguez. And Antiplano by Milena Zlam. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But all of these shorts, they really felt like they were made for each other. It was a perfectly curated selection of short films. Because they are all pulling from a lot of the same raw material. Like 2 of them even both use eclipse footage from last year's eclipse. And they're all using the same sort of basic techniques in order to create their aesthetics. It's essentially like a very simple, old school cinema trick of just superimposing 2 images on top of each other. And pretty much all of these shorts just took video of various like extreme close-ups or extreme wide shots of nature and stacked them on top of each other. And often was like weaving them in and out of opacity to the point where the images truly do start to blend together. You may be able to intellectualize, okay, I know that I'm looking at a mountain on one hand and I'm looking at a river on the other hand, but the longer you look at these like fading into each other images, the less you can see the 2 composite parts, and the more you just see a new image that your brain can't really categorize. It's just color and light and shape. And I thought all of these were like really mesmerizing. I loved all of them.
Well, it kind of plays to that almost post-birth of cinema kind of exploration, because when you had the birth of cinema and you had like the Lumiere brothers and Edison, you had these very naturalistic, documentary and shorts, and this kind of felt like that's cool and all, but we also have the ability to do all of these tricks to kind of create this this fantasy of the movies.
Right.
It evokes
the George Méliès school.
It evokes Méliès. It evokes a lot of the expressionist work from the Germans. It really just
Germain Dulac, right?
Germain Dulac is a surrealist filmmaker in France. Like it's kind of doing one of those things where it's playing with all of the tools that it has, which is always appreciated. The one I do want to shout out though is, I think that just not only just as a kind of experience being great, but also just the technical aspect of Jody Mack's short Hoarders Without Borders is really remarkable. I would recommend, even if you're like, I don't want to watch avant-garde cinema, I would recommend watching this one, just because not only because of like the experience that it has, but just because she's using stop motion, and they're putting together these different shapes, and you see the hands in motion, just going at like 1,000+ speed. It's really remarkable just on a technical level. I think anybody would kind of get some marvel out of watching that, because it's the camera techniques that she's using is really, really, really crazy when you think about it.
I think she shot it on just like super fast speed, and then slowed it down more or sped it up?
You shoot slow, speed it up.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're right. It just has this weird kind of inscrutable quality. I just kept wondering, like, if we paused right here, what image would I actually be looking at? But it's so hard to wrap your head around that, because the images are coming at you so quickly.
Yeah, and the shapes are just like shifting and moving, and there's no like it's that one I would recommend anybody just check it out, because just the technical aspects of it are really cool. I also really enjoyed Apichatpong's short Blue, where you have this wall of I guess I'm gonna describe it as like wall of kind of fairy tale esque
It's like
images.
a backdrop.
Yeah, that just pulls down
The
every so
sound was
often.
so good.
It was a great.
Oh god,
It was a great use of
he's
sound.
always so good with like ambient
Natural noise. Oh,
yeah.
like cicadas buzzing and stuff like that. Even over the credits, like that continues, and the credits were so long. I felt like that was part of the movie.
I think so.
Yeah, but you have this woman who's sitting there with this very vibrantly blue blanket,
right.
And then you have
it's
this
the titular role.
Yeah, it's blue, and then you have the
oh my god.
and then you have the superimposition where like this fire starts to emerge, and it's a very weird sensation because like you can kind of your eyes can tell that it's two images stacked on each other.
Yeah.
But the actual act of watching that is very
they blend so well that at a certain
arresting.
point you can't not believe like this woman is on fire.
And he also like shifts the camera and kind of catches stuff at different angles.
Yeah.
That also kind of confuses you and disorients your perception of what's happening.
And in the middle of this scene between this artificial backdrop and this woman sleeping, and there's like a fire in the middle, but around the fire there's this like blackboard thing, but instead of a blackboard it's I think a glass pane.
Yeah. And
in some scenes it seems like the fire that's been superimposed upon the image is just being reflected off of that glass pane. And other times it feels like he's actually overlaying the images, you know, the way you do with the double exposure. Mm-hmm. And it's it's kind of similar, but not exactly like what I was talking about earlier, where you can see these two images, but you can't quite remove them from one another mentally. You also can't quite tell like how he's doing it. Is he doing it with this technique? Is he doing it with this technique? You kind of throw up your hands and like, well, I just have to accept this as reality because I can't figure out how it works. It's a magic trick.
Lydia, do you have anything on the shorts? No.
I don't. I'm glad I saw them, but I don't know how to talk about them.
I also really liked fainting spells.
Yeah, fainting spells.
Oh man, fainting spells. Okay, so this is mostly like moving landscape shots. I guess taken in a car, right? So you're like seeing mountains and stuff like that. But it also has words
just kind of scrolling
that are scrolling very slowly across the screen, and they're scrolling so slowly that you can't really read them. Ordinarily, you would think like the way that you would make them unreadable would be moving them very fast. But this moves them so slow that you're having to read one word at a time, and then by the time you get to the end of a phrase, you don't remember what was at the beginning of it anymore. And so you can't really keep track of these words. It's just like this line that's moving across the screen. And near the end of this short, the scrolling words moved to the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
And we haven't really talked about this, so I'm just kind of proposing my theory. Is that meant to look like a film strip? Mm-hmm. With like the words kind of acting as I don't know what you call them, like little holes in the side of the celluloid film strip?
Yeah, I mean, I could buy that, yeah.
Anyways, I thought that was a neat little trick. Yeah.
Sorry.
I also really, really liked Kevin Everson's Poly 1, which takes the eclipse footage really zoomed in and starts at the moon totally eclipsing the sun and slowly moves to the sun revealing itself. And it's so close up that you kind of, I mean, he talked about it afterwards in the Q&A, is like taking a natural image and pushing it into the realm of abstraction. And I think that you really get the sense of that just a couple minutes into the short. Like, you know, you're looking at the eclipse. You maybe even saw the eclipse yourself, but you start to register these images as just geometric shapes and not actual, capturing of the natural world. It's really wild. I don't quite know how we did it, but it's very cool in its simplicity.
Awesome. Who wants to do? We have our last few films. I guess I can start. I can talk. I can do. I'll just run through the. I'm not gonna talk like too in depth about it. I'm just gonna run through the plot of Tito and the Birds.
Yeah.
Which is
okay.
Which is this Brazilian animated film that I watched last night. I'll be greatly surprised if G Kids doesn't pick this up, it seems like a G Kids type movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's this foreign studio kind of messing with different animation forms. It's very cool. It has this very impressionistic kind of look to it. But yeah, Tito and the Birds. So pretty much this is the story. There's this kid named Tito. The way they pronounce it, though, it sounds like Cheeto, and that was very entertaining. He lives with his mom and his dad. His dad is an inventor. His dad is trying to invent a machine to let birds talk, and so that they can understand birds' language. But one night he uses the machine with Tito there, and it blows up, and Tito gets hurt, so he has to leave. Because, when your dad blows up a machine, with you there, that's bad. So now his dad has been gone for a number of years. He's very sad, and this epidemic called the outbreak comes out, and nobody knows how to stop it. And what happens in the outbreak is people, their eyes bulge out, and then they turn into rocks. And so you have all of these rock people just stuck around the city. You have these kind of these suited medevac suit people spraying stuff. You have this kind of chaos happening while you have this chaos agent, this TV personality who's constantly feeding the. It's pretty much like they threw Bill O'Reilly into that movie Contagion from Steven Soderbergh. So all of this is happening, and Tito finds out. Well, what's gonna save it is the pigeons know what's up, so we need to talk to the pigeons. And I was like, sure, okay. So he creates he gets the machine going. He's like, all right, we got to talk to the pigeons, so the pigeons know what's up. And because as we learned, the pigeons have been especially the street pigeons, because not like normal pigeons, the street pigeons, which I'll get to why that's a distinction in a little bit, have been since the beginning of time helping man and helping them to avoid catastrophes.
Okay.
So that's why we have to listen to the birds, and they'll help us.
That's why we have to listen to the birds.
That's what Tito's telling us. That's the thing. So naturally they get the machine working. They have the song of the pigeons. It makes, and they say that it's not the song by the pigeons is not what saved everybody. It's the shared memory that was created allowed everybody to not be rocks anymore, which was a strange direction it took. But I don't know. I really dug. First off, compared to the front runner, it really understood the military or the weaponization of mass media for a population. Like I said, it was pretty much like a Fox News host just feeding alarmist fear into the masses, and they were almost like they would have these scenes where and this is where the kind of expressionistic and impressionistic style really played in, where they would flow through the city and people, and just you're watching people interacting with this media on screen. And then it got into these anti-capitalistic, kind of Marxist areas. And Nathan would be so proud of this when I was making this connection last night. But you have, because I kind of viewed it as you have the street pigeons. They specify that the street pigeons. This is kind of like the working
the street
class.
pigeons, the proletariat.
They are. And but it also ends on this level where it's their song helps, but it's really about this shared memory type thing. This finding kind of a you don't necessarily because at the end it's not like everything is completely fixed up. The Fox News guy is pretty much still going. Okay. Like he's talking about how it literally ends with him saying, "Oh, you can download the pigeon song for $10 on my website. Go to my website here." And I was like, oh, good. We continue to capitalize on the.
Sorry to bother you. Thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like pretty much its solution is capitalism is awful, but if we work to all understand that, we can kind of fight the stream, but it's not like the stream's gonna stop.
Okay, so question. In the the last couple years, it seems like more than usual, G-Kids is starting to distribute movies that are not really kids' movies. Like, for example, I've heard Bird Boy, and it is pretty weird, disturbing adult film. Mind Game by Yuasa is distributed by G-Kids, and they have like a big "Not for Kids" label on the cover of that. Is this a movie that you can like start your children young with Marxism with, or is this very much just for adults?
Kids could watch this; they would be very confused.
Yeah.
Be very confused. But I mean, you could watch this. They wouldn't. I don't know if they would understand it. I was really vibing with the Marxist stuff in it. I don't know if it'd be a group understanding, but yeah, I don't know. It does fit that description of being like this really not for kids animated movie. It's kind of like, I don't know. There is this kind of dark twinge to it that's interesting.
Another example would be The Girl Without Hands, and they're actually distributing Perfect Blue right now, which is very much not for kids. But Lydia, how did you like Predator?
Didn't. Zach was right yesterday when he said I would not like it. I don't understand what the fuck Shane Black is doing.
Who does he think he is?
No, okay. So, I guess did you talk about the story at all, or did you just like, okay.
So I'm just
going to talk about what I don't like.
What story do you like? The Predator comes to Earth and they fight him. The end.
All
right,
okay.
Go and talk about your stuff. Jesus, what story do you guys need?
I don't know. It was just weirdly like disgustingly like jingoistic, and I was trying to think about, okay, so you have the original 80s Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's like very much pro-military and camaraderie ship and American values. Not really. It's actually, I feel like, kind of apolitical. I mean, as apolitical as you can get, like covert, secret American missions in Vietnam or wherever.
Yeah.
Other than that,
it doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty of it.
But the Predator had a lot of like very weird and off-putting, like gotta flag up something positive about the military or American or Americans or masculinity, or like the main character played by
Boyd Holbrook.
Sure, Boyd Holbrook. Like, he's no Arnold Schwarzenegger, and like maybe this movie needs someone really like charismatic and fun.
It needs somebody who has like a persona that you can kind of disassociate from franchises. You know, like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
it needed like him or a Sylvester Stallone or a Tom Cruise. Like, it needed somebody to kind of apoliticize it with this just kind of movie star persona.
Like, this guy,
you don't know this guy from Adam, so it's
and he's really smug and like goes around. He's like, yeah, I'm a sniper for the military, and he threatens people with violence, just
boom,
like
boom, boom, you know.
Anytime something's not going his way, and like he'll do this shit in front of his kid, and then at the same time,
my child might kill somebody. Whatever.
Pays some lip service to like, hey, don't do fights in front of my kid. It's like, but 3 seconds later, you threaten to snap a guy's neck, like just in front. So like weird mixed messaging, and then shit like, they're soldiers, they would never attack a sleeping woman. I just went, yeah. It's like weird flagging up.
It's a strange. I went to the Midnight Madness, like I said yesterday, for this, and the screenwriter I was telling Lydia talked afterwards, and they were asking him what they kind of came up with. He was like, "Well, first we wanted to evoke like classic Spielberg," and I was like, "Well, you didn't."
I think they put a kid in it, and they thought that was the same thing. And
I don't think
not
people know what classic
thing.
Spielberg, or like when they say that, I don't think they know what they're talking about.
No.
Then he was like, well, now, and then we also wanted to evoke John Carpenter action movies. It's like, well, you did.
They didn't do that.
And then he was talking about just kind of finding this 80s aesthetic, and I was like, that's pretty much what it comes down to. It's like this '80s movie that's transplanted into 2018. That's why the Boyd Holbrook and kind of military thing feels off, because it kind of has this like Reagan era hoorah type situation, and that doesn't really play for 2018. It's just
like
a
it's
different,
a bad look.
it's just
in
a different
2018.
it's a different political climate, yeah, and so it has like all of that paired with kind of the irreverence of like Deadpool. So it's like merging 80s, like an 80s,
like it's almost
movie.
meta commentary on, but not like
yeah, it doesn't have like the mise en scène that which is a weird phrase. It doesn't have the mise en scène that Deadpool has, but like Deadpool like plays with that, like tries to you break the fourth wall and do stuff to at least like make you recognize the meta commentary, and this one is just doing it more offhand, and it feels strange.
It feels like hateful. Like, do you like 80s? I think we ran into this problem with Kiss Kiss Bang.
I was gonna say,
didn't we?
Saying that it seems to be trying for meta commentary but not quite getting there. That sounds exactly like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
And I was like, do you actually like the genre that you're parodying? You're pandering to the audience to make them feel really fucking clever.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about also because we both liked Nice Guys to an extent, but the difference with the Nice Guys is that both Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe's characters are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
But he also is like, yeah, they recognize that. Like everybody's on board.
Like Russell Crowe's alcoholic.
Everybody understands, and so it works, because you're just like, all right, yeah, we're not supposed to like idolize these guys, and they don't want you to idolize them, kind of thing. But this one does want you to attach to like the kind of like band of misfit type thing. Yeah.
Except they're band of misfit. Like, I also do not understand what Shane Black's problem is with like neurodivergent people, because the kid, he's on the autism spectrum, and they're on the one hand keep talking about living in one place like an evolutionary biologist.
I mean,
sure.
we can just flat out say, I mean, pretty much we find out that the plot of this movie is that due to him being on the spectrum, he has an elevated like
intellect
and humanity. So that's why the
step.
Predator is coming to take him, to hybrid him as like the superhuman.
So like on the one hand, it's like, oh, like maybe something positive, but it's also extremely othering, and all of the rest of the characters go around saying the R word.
Oh, really?
Like throwing it out repeatedly. There's a character with Tourette's that they like also.
Yeah, that's kind of just used as a throwaway joke.
I was
like,
like,
gets used in Vox Lux too, to make you hate Natalie Portman.
We're not supposed to hate these. Like, we're supposed to be like, don't use that word, and then they kind of like joke. Don't use that word. That's not a joke. That's not how a joke works.
Right.
Well, it's not really.
Tell my students.
It's not really like it's not really like structuring it as like this kind of comedy thing. It goes back to what I was saying yesterday, where it's like if they say like fuck instead of a regular word, that's funny. And for him, it's literally like there's a scene in the movie where he like has this moment where he just goes, "Eat my pussy" to Olivia Munn, and she's just like, "What did you say?" And we have this whole like exchange with them, and she's like, "No, I heard what you said," and I'm just like what's I don't understand.
Gaslighting is funny.
Yeah, gaslighting is funny.
I just don't understand like where are we getting the humor from this? This seems just kind of
like at no point do they explain to her about Tourette's. Like,
no, they're like, he's kooky.
Like that's how it's framed, and it's like that's not actually. And it's like, if you do have Tourette's or autism, like, but if you're cool with people calling, like, then you're one of the cool ones. Like, it's cool because you know that we don't mean it that way. That's not how slurs work. Like, even in a reclaiming sense, that's not how slurs work.
Yeah, it's a very strange.
And I just don't understand what his problem. Like, why would you even just include that as like a very ongoing gag with like two separate characters?
I chose not to see Predator, and I think I made the right choice.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about it?
I wish I'd seen your.
No,
I wish I'd gone with you.
So I saw Out of Blue by Carol Morley, and I won't talk about it too long because we're running long on time, and Zach needs to go watch A Star Is Born. But Carol Morley. I went to see this exclusively on the strength of her last movie, The Falling, which was one of my favorite movies of, I guess it was like 2015 where we got it in the States. That is a weird little like pagan boarding school movie, like big quotation marks around like pagan, that uses editing to insert like not quite subliminal but basically subliminal images throughout the film. Great performances by Maisie Williams and Florence Pugh in that film. This movie, Out of Blue, stars Patricia Clarkson, and she's playing a detective investigating the death of an astrophysicist. And the first hour, or first 30 minutes or so of the movie really feels like you are watching a cop show, right? You're watching Law and Order or CSI or whatever. I was looking on her IMDb to see if she's been in any of these kinds of shows. And she was in Murder One in the 90s. And I wonder if this is kind of riffing on whatever persona she.
I would say yeah, because she's right now on Sharp Objects on HBO, but she's not really the cop role, so it's not really. Yeah.
When I say it feels like you're watching a cop show, like it kind of looks like you're watching a cop show too. Like it has the aesthetics of
like
a television police procedural, right? And when it first started, I was like, no, I don't. Why am I here? This is not what I was hoping for. But she takes the TV form, like I think she's very intentionally like trying to mimic that, and then she kind of warps it. Like she's morphing it back into noir, and then she morphs it into something a little stranger than noir. Like it's very uncanny the way that she makes this form feel strange. She will just add a little bit more silence, a little bit more space in between the lines of dialogue that characters say to one another. Like they're pausing a little bit longer than they would on TV. There's a little bit less room noise and atmosphere and background music to kind of make these sets feel exciting. It feels like you're in these kind of quiet, sealed off spaces, sort of like a lot of the spaces in Twin Peaks: The Return. And like I said, it moves it into noir. There are these very expressionistic sequences that kind of sneak up on you, of like shadows playing on blue light. And where the story ends up going content-wise kind of reflects this weird mood that the movie is creating. She's investigating this astrophysicist who, I guess this is kind of a spoiler. We find out she really committed suicide. I guess you find that about halfway through the film. She's committing suicide because she believes in the multiverse and that she's only killing one version of herself, and that she will wake up as another version of herself, or wake up like inside of a black hole or something like that. And
so she just watched like Rick and Morty or something?
This concept starts to really mess with Patricia Clarkson's character's mind, and she starts to slowly see the world as this astrophysicist sees the world. And so there are kind of parallel realities that exist inside this film. Like you'll get an insert shot of something in the middle of a dialogue scene, and the insert shot will be of something that is not real. But it's just an insert shot, so like we move on. And you start to like second guess what you are seeing. Like we have the movie plays off this basic assumption that any shot that is in the edit is existing along the same continuity and the same reality as the rest of the movie. But increasingly, as Out of Blue goes on, that is not the case, and we're starting to see like these dissociating realities. It's done in a super subtle way. The ending is one of the most ambiguous endings I have seen in a long time. This thing reminded me a little bit of where it ends up going. It reminds me of like Annihilation or The Endless or something like that. So imagine Law and Order like slowly turning into Annihilation, and you have kind of a sense of what this is.
I like that.
It's cool. I mean, I'm not quite sure how other people respond to it because I've not seen any reviews or tweets. But my gut reaction is that I think that people might really get down with this movie. I was a big fan of it. So check out Out of Blue whenever you get a chance to do that.
Very cool. Well, hope you guys enjoyed our 15-minute TIFF diary. We'll hopefully be back tomorrow with updates. We're going to see the Halloween movie tonight.
We are.
So I feel like that's where most people will come. But like I said, I'm going to see Star is Born We're also going to see 22 July.
I got the tickets to the Monrovia, Indiana Wiseman doc.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Andrew and I are gonna take Dive 2 into Wavelengths, so
We are.
it'll be fun. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Be looking for tomorrow's diary.
Bye.